Marco, and thank you for joining the Meet Italy community today and for sharing your views with us. And hello, everyone, and welcome to It's a Brave Zoom World, a series of interviews with industry and opinion leaders in the time of lockdown. Marco, let's get down to business. You work very closely with clients that thrive in a globalized environment. Tell us how COVID-19 and the current pushback against globalization is disrupting their traditional models.
Yes, and first of all, thank you, Davide, for having me for this interview. Thank you to Meet Italy, and then for this opportunity. And your question is a very interesting, a good question. Gives us the opportunity to talk about what is going on. We work for definition, but for global clients that are engaged in the global business, and so we are really experiencing firsthand what is going on. And the impact of COVID-19 is really unlike any other big event that occurred in the past because of the scope of the impact on all businesses across all industries. There is no geographic limitation, and the world is hit. There is no limitation to specific industries. All industries are affected. Both supply and demand is affected. Ironically, even industries that have no problem in supply, like airlines, are being impacted by a significant drop in demand. And there is a great uncertainty on the term of what is going on, even though there is a vaccine maybe on the horizon. And what we see also is a long-term effect of the virus on behaviors and also business model. This is something that is going to remain even when the COVID is finished, because certain business practices will change and certain human behaviors will change probably for the future. In terms of specific sectors and specific business models, we work with different clients in different industries. We see clients, for instance, in the advanced manufacturing industry, companies that manufacture industrial equipment and machineries in the home country, and they sell those machineries and equipment in foreign country. For instance, like here in the United States, they send people from abroad to the US with their products, components, and services, technical services. For those companies, the impact is dramatic. They have workforce that is stranded in the US, that cannot move, is here for longer than what was expected. The projects are on standby, and those companies have immediate issues, including tax issues, whether or not their presence is becoming a taxable presence here, what happens to their employees that stay here longer, and also more long-term effect. The business model is impacted. It will be not possible to move people around easily. So those companies will have to think about the idea of having direct business operations here on the ground in the United States to better serve their customers. Another industry that is significantly affected is high-end consumer products. Italian fashion brands that most of them operate. Some of them operate through flagship stores, but others operate through retailers in big department stores and malls. Some of them are really closing down. Sonoma Marcus, a big name in the high-end segment of the industry that filed for bankruptcy. So operating through that business for those companies is going to be really challenging. We have other clients in the defense and aerospace industry that are being impacted. That will be a sector in which some limitations to international trade to protect key industries here will probably take effect, and the selling here from abroad will be more difficult for those companies because of limitations on the movement of technology and transfer of products that are used in key industries here in the United States. And last, for an industry that is close to Meet Italy, media, technology, and entertainment. Of course, for companies in that industry, there's been an incredible increase in demand for their services, both existing services, new services, new technologies. So those companies have experienced a significant increase in demand. At the same time, there is a drop in advertising demand. Advertising revenue is the main source of revenue for those companies, so that are being under challenge from a financial standpoint. this is, this is just an example of this, far-reaching impact of the virus that we are seeing so far.
So this is a great sort of snapshot of the crisis. And when there's a crisis, as we were discussing before we started the live interview, there are also opportunities. Can you single out maybe some emerging strategies that may allow some of your clients to take advantage of the chaotic situation and the trends of change?
Yeah, I am. My work is really focused on international tax planning, and we see clients now that based on what is going on and based on certain expectations about what will be going on in the future, we are really start taking some crucial steps. Some of them are considering their IP and their know-how and their technology, where it is located, and whether they should make any move in migrating IP in other jurisdictions or relocating IP in other jurisdictions for the future, both for non-tax and for tax reasons. So IP evaluation and IP migration and reallocation is something that is now being considered. Here in the United States, there are tax rules that create incentives for bringing IP back to the US. If you have your IP here and you sell your technology or IP products abroad, you basically enjoy an effective tax rate that is lower than the regular rate. It can be as low as 13%. At the same time, if you manufacture abroad, foreign profits through IP located abroad, foreign profits are subject to a 10.5% minimum tax in the United States with zero tax if you have a lower foreign jurisdiction. So there are compelling reasons to review your IP and see exactly where it should be located for your future business operations. Another area that is under review is transfer pricing. Of course, business models are disrupted. The way in which your companies around the globe operate is changing. Go from profitability to losses. You have to really, you need cash, so you need to reposition your cash, maintain your cash flow. So transfer pricing arrangements and transfer pricing policies are being reconsidered with potential changes, for the future in the way in which risks functions are allocated among the various components of your group. And another area, again, for companies that operate with workforce that goes across the globe, they are considering now the idea of maybe starting direct business operations in certain foreign countries in order to avoid problems, constraints, and restrictions as far as the workforce is concerned, considering, possible limitation to immigrations and international trade restrictions to movement of goods and people. So these are the areas in which you can have challenges, at the same time opportunities to be well positioned and better positioned as soon as the COVID situation becomes a little bit less pressing.
Well, given the great economic damage that COVID-19 has inflicted onto our country, do you think that perhaps in this chaotic situation, there may be opportunity arising on local in Italy?
Yeah, I think so. Again, what I was saying is that there are, very good Italian companies with good technology that compete in a global economy. And I think that for those companies, there is an opportunity to attract maybe investments from abroad and potentially attract, strategic investors also, strategic partners that could help them, continue growing and competing as soon as the COVID-19 situation is behind the corner. I mean, I think that those companies should be even more than more in going after opportunities outside of Italy. And right now, valuations are probably interesting and can be a reason for investors and strategic partners to look at Italy for opportunities. So Italian companies should be ready.
Very well. And then before I let you go, the most difficult question of our little chat. Do you expect the political narrative to escalate against globalization? Or do you think eventually the current crisis will usher in a more cooperative sort of behavior?
Yeah, this question is an interesting question. And of course, there is right now, all nations are focused on what is going on. And also here in the US, there is the most immediate need of try and get this situation resolved. But there is a lot of talk about, deglobalization or, moving onshore certain activities. In my opinion is that despite the rhetoric, of course, you cannot go back to a more protectionist kind of business model. You cannot really deglobalize supply chains. Supply chains are really global, and there is no way to move away from this model, and it will never happen. If you think about the iPhone, which is the quintessential global product, I think that there are hundreds of components that are manufactured by hundreds of companies in dozens of countries. And this is true for also other products. So a large scale deglobalization will never be possible. It's not even useful to anybody. I think that at the smaller scale, for certain maybe industries, there might be something like a review of the supply chain and a more domestic supply chain. Of course, this is true for probably the medical industry. Here, of course, the US has been caught off guard, and lack of supplies sort of ring a bell, and so there is a discussion for being less dependent from foreign supply of key medical products. So that's an area. Another area is technology and products and components for key industries like aerospace and defense. That's another area in which probably the supply chain will move back to the United States with more probably international trade restrictions to movement of technology, of key technology outside of the United States. And so those companies that are in those industries should pay attention. And if they want to keep growing with the key position in the US market, they should think about reviewing their business model, because those industries will be affected by a review of the supply chain, and for sure the production will be more onshore and domestic than what it used to be.
Very well. Marco, this is all we have for today. This was incredibly insightful, and I want to thank you for taking the time and spend a little bit of your day with the Meet Italy community. And so thank you very much, and I really hope to see you soon in person this time. And thank you all for watching.